Hey friends, welcome back to the Lifestyle School podcast. Happy New Year. I hope you had a great holiday season. Today we are diving into a powerful strategy, the 5 steps to start becoming your healthiest self in 2026. And this isn't just fluff, okay? This isn't a motivational pep talk you'll forget tomorrow. This is a grounded, research-backed, nervous system aligned, metabolism supported roadmap based on everything you and I have been talking about in this podcast for the last year. So I want to begin by acknowledging where most people are actually starting, right? We're living in a world that pushes us into metabolic dysfunction without us even realizing it. We're expected to run at full speed, to say yes to everything, to hold the mental load of your home, to perform at work, to look good, to stay emotionally available to everyone, and then somehow make time for meal planning, exercise, rest, self-care. And, you're expected to do it all while living in an environment that is fundamentally mismatched with our biology. And, we've, for many of us, never been more stressed, never slept less, have never been more disconnected from nature, from our bodies, or from our true needs. We've never eaten more processed food, and we've never been exposed to more toxins, more stimulation, more blue light, or more emotional pressure. And we wonder why we're inflamed. We wonder why we're anxious, tired, and carrying extra weight, right? And we wonder why our hormones are a mess. We wonder why we don't feel like ourselves anymore. And I want you to know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your body is responding in a predictable way to an unpredictable world. So today, what I want to give you is not another list of tasks, I should say, or rules, but I want to give you a framework or a structure that aligns with your daily life, with human biology. Again, sorry, I don't know if what I just said made sense. A structure that aligns your daily life with your human biology. There we go. A framework that gives your metabolism room to breathe, that your nervous system, it gives it a chance to stabilize, and your mind the clarity it has been missing. Okay. This is the same roadmap I use inside my course, A Lifestyle School for Weight Loss, because it works. And it works when you're overwhelmed. It works when you're busy. It works when you feel disconnected. And it works when you feel like you've failed before, which is a big one because it's not built on perfection. You don't need to be perfect to do this. We are anti-perfection in Lifestyle School. It's built on principles. And before we get into it, though, today, as always, I want to give you a quick reminder. I am not a medical doctor. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your doctor before making any major health changes if you need to do that, okay? And then, guys, before we jump in, an exciting new thing today, I want to let you know that my online supplement store is officially open. If you've been wanting high quality supplements you can actually trust, this is where to get them. Every product in my store is third-party tested for quality and purity. I should say I've known this company and been working with them for decades, which is not something, you're guaranteed when you're buying supplements from Amazon or grabbing whatever is on the shelf at your local grocery store or health food store. These are the same supplements that I recommend to my clients and I use myself. They are all professional grade. And this is an easy way to support me and the Lifestyle School podcast if you're already out there purchasing supplements. Okay. So I want to invite you to come check out the store. You can create an account using code 104567. I'll say that again. The code to create an account is 104567. And you can head over to www.hopeplatcoaching.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. And if you want to know exactly where to start when it comes to supplements, go listen to episode 43, where I walk you through my core 4 supplement recommendations and why they matter for metabolic health. All right, guys, with that, let's get back to the episode. So step 1 is we have to reconnect with our body's signal. Okay. I like to say this as awareness before action. And this is the starting point for the framework that I'm going to be laying out for you today. The first step towards becoming your healthiest self is reconnecting with your body. And, this is the most important, one of the most important steps. And it's unfortunately the step that I think most people skip. We're conditioned to jump straight into action. Like, let's fix our diet. Let's change our workout. Let's start a challenge. Let's follow a plan. But here is the truth. If you don't actually know what your body is telling you, any action you take will likely be misaligned, right? You'll end up forcing a strategy onto a body that you haven't listened to in who knows how long. And when you're disconnected from your signals, you lose access to your greatest tool, which is your own internal feedback system. Your body actually tells you almost everything you need to know. But unfortunately, most of us haven't been taught how to listen to our bodies. So this looks like slowing down enough to observe some of the following things like how rested or unrested do I feel when I wake up in the morning? This is a big indicator, right? It tells us how we slept. It tells us if we're getting enough sleep. It tells us, maybe how our circadian rhythm is doing. Whether you wake up feeling anxious, wired, or groggy, right? That's another big indicator. Um, if you notice if caffeine gives you focus or if it pushes you into a stress response, right? Have you noticed? If noticing whether you feel satisfied after meals or still hungry despite eating what should be plenty of food? Noticing if you crash after lunch, are you someone who has that mid-afternoon slump where you're like, I have to have coffee or I'm going to fall asleep at my desk? Tells us a lot about what your blood sugar is doing. If you crave certain foods based on your emotions, your stress, or lack of sleep, again, another great indicator. Of different things that could be contributing to your health issues and your weight issues. The difference between true physical hunger and emotional hunger, this is a big one. Have you paid attention? Like, am I actually hungry? When was the last time I ate? And what did I eat? Am I just trying to like fill some sort of emotional need? How your digestion feels. Do you feel bloated after every meal? That's a big one. Or how your body reacts to certain foods, connecting that back to digestion. When you start paying attention, you begin to see patterns and you begin to notice like cause and effect in your own life. And you begin to understand what your body has been trying to say for weeks, maybe months, and maybe even years. And so I want to be clear that awareness is not passive. Um, it is something that you have to be really uh, you know, diligent about doing. And awareness is really about intervention, right? Without awareness, you're essentially flying blind. With awareness, you're finally operating with some real data you can respond to in a way that supports healing instead of fighting against your body. And think of this step as like a reconnecting with self. You're rebuilding that foundation that every other step depends on. Also, I think this goes back to getting off of autopilot. So many of us are just going from one thing to the next, day after day after day, because it's easy, right? It takes mental stress off of us. We do so much on autopilot, but when we're on autopilot, it doesn't help us whatsoever when it comes to being aware of those things that our body is trying to tell us. And also, we're not going to notice those patterns that are maybe leading us down bad pathways. So taking that step back, trying to disengage autopilot in our life, and then reconnecting with ourself, our body's signals, having that awareness of how we're actually feeling instead of just trying to like glaze over it with donuts and caffeine, and, screen time and, put that Band-Aid on it. We have to reconnect with self if we want to make meaningful change in this new year. And so, I want to encourage you to take some time to think about like, what would it actually mean to reconnect with myself in this new year? Do I do a good job of that? Or am I constantly going at 100 miles an hour on autopilot and just, going from one thing to the next? A great example of autopilot is when, you're driving somewhere and you get in the car, you start going, and then it's like you wake up when you're there and you're like, oh, I don't even remember getting there. Or this is a funny story from way back when I was in, I think it was just post college here, but I had went to church and I had told myself, no, I'm not going to get Chipotle for lunch because I have food in my fridge I need to eat. And I start driving from church on autopilot. And it's like I woke up in front of Chipotle. I was like, well, maybe this is my body telling me I need Chipotle. I think I did end up getting Chipotle despite not needing to. But like so much of our life we do on autopilot. And so we have to disengage that, reconnect with ourselves so we can know what our body is telling us. The next step in the framework that I teach in my lifestyle stool course is you have to stabilize your blood sugar. It's the metabolic keystone to everything else. Once you've reconnected with your body's signals, the next step is stabilizing your blood sugar because almost every symptom we struggle with traces back to glucose instability. Okay. It's a huge issue for the majority of people. When blood sugar is on a roller coaster, everything becomes unstable and your energy swings, your cravings spike, your mood becomes unpredictable, your hormones become dysregulated, your sleep can become fragmented, your inflammation rises, your stress hormones increase, and your metabolic rate actually slows down. Okay. And so when your blood sugar is stable, though, like not going up super high because you decided to eat a donut on an empty stomach and then crashing super low, that's below your standard, it's like an entire uh, system exhales. Exhales. I said that word. When your blood sugar is stable, like your body is like, oh, okay. Your brain finally starts getting a consistent supply of fuel. Your cravings are going to dramatically reduce. Your emotional reactivity starts to tone down. Can I get an amen from the ladies? Your hormones stop overcompensating and your body feels safer, right? And when your body feels safe, it can lose weight much easier, it can drop the fat, and it can heal because we don't want to just lose weight in 2026, right? We want to heal. We want to heal internally. We want to heal our gut and our body and our hormones, all that. But we also want to heal everything else, right? Emotionally, physically, spiritually. And these steps to build blood sugar to stabilize blood sugar are as follows. Okay. So we have to build meals around protein and healthy fat. It's like the foundation. I'm not an anti-carb girly, as people refer to themselves online. I think that's a funny thing people say. Anyway, I'm not anti-carbs, but I am pro. We got to eat carbs in relation to our metabolic health. So if you are insulin resistant, if you have wildly unstable blood sugar, carbs are probably not your friend right now, right? If you're not very active, carbs are probably not your friend right now. But if you're, constantly doing a lot of heavy weight training, if you aren't insulin resistant, you don't have like a high hemoglobin A1C, your blood sugar isn't really volatile, you could probably do some carbs. And when I say carbs, I'm not referring to like vegetables. I'm referring to a lot of fruit, especially the higher sugar fruits, as well as grains and potatoes and the like. Okay. But really, to balance blood sugar, we have to focus our meals around protein and healthy fat. And when I say focus it around protein, I'm not talking about like 50 grams of protein per meal. I'm saying 25 to 35 grams, depending on the person, your weight, if you're male or female, somewhere around there for your meals. Okay. And then getting plenty of healthy fats and then adding on vegetables as tolerated as needed. Then adding fiber and healthy fats is going to help slow glucose absorption. So that's, some people don't tolerate fiber super great. Others do great with it. So you got to figure out, again, this is coming back to that awareness, finding out what works for you. You shouldn't be eating a meal though and feeling bloated afterwards. That's going to be a sign that something's not sitting right. But fiber and healthy fats do help slow glucose absorption. So that is another key step to stabilizing blood sugar. We got to reduce refined carbs and sugars, um, which, is kind of a no-brainer. Sometimes doing some carbs is fine, again, based on your activity levels and kind of where you're at in your journey. But if you are going to do those carbs, again, we never eat them first. We never eat them on an empty stomach. They always come after protein and fat. Okay. And then eating intentional meals is a big one for blood sugar stability versus grazing all day. And I know this is a super hard one for my moms and they're super busy or, home with kids all day. You're picking off kids' meals, off their snacks, and that's what you eat in a day. This is horrible for blood sugar stabilization. Okay. Eat, 2 or 3 intentional meals a day and then be done. No snacking. This is really going to help stabilize your blood sugar. And then, I'm getting ahead of myself. I made myself some bullet points, but pairing carbohydrates with your movement so that your muscles use up that glucose, kind of like I was saying. If you know you're going to do like a big workout, have some carbs after your workout. And then for blood sugar stabilization, also introducing some fasting based on your personal tolerance. Something that I will say about blood sugar regulation is I used to really deal with reactive hypoglycemia, where I would get really low blood sugar when I hadn't eaten because I had really bad glucose variability. And I would, if I didn't eat like every 2 hours, it was wild. My blood sugar would crash low. I was for sure on the blood sugar roller coaster with high highs and low lows, and I'd feel those low lows. And then I'd start to feel shaky, kind of like, I was going to pass out. And so it would give me food anxiety, right? And I was really scared to start fasting because of these episodes of low blood sugar. Because I was like, well, if I fast, I'm just gonna pass out, like it's not gonna go well. But actually, the opposite thing happened. I started fasting very slowly. I was that person who I had like protein or eggs or healthy fat within 15 minutes of waking up every morning because I knew I needed to do that for my blood sugar. And then I slowly, went to 30 minutes and then an hour, 2 hours. And at the same time, I was working on my food choices, trying not to be on the blood sugar roller coaster, eating carbs by themselves, throughout the day. And now when I am, in a good spot metabolically, uh, I don't have those blood sugar crashes. I haven't dealt with reactive hypoglycemia in years. And I can fast for 48 hours and feel great and have a bunch of energy without any of that crashing. So we have to teach our body how to, metabolize fat for energy, but also we have to get off the blood sugar roller coaster. And fasting can help us do that and having these like intentional meals instead of snacking all day. And I want to be clear that this isn't about restriction. This is about stabilization. Okay. We want stable rolling hills of blood sugar, not these like super big peaks and valleys. A stable blood sugar curve is the difference between feeling like you're constantly fighting your body and feeling like your body is finally working with you. And, it's the difference between white knuckling your habits, right? And then, or effortlessly sticking to them because your biology is no longer pushing you in the opposite direction. Because I can tell you when I'd have those blood sugar crashes, I wasn't reaching for a meat stick or almonds, right? I was like, I need a candy bar because I feel like my blood sugar's low and I feel shaky and weird. And I feel like I need help get my blood sugar up quickly. And obviously that's not in line with my goals. So blood sugar stabilization is one of the big keystones of habits that need to be set in place because it affects everything else when it comes to our lifestyle and making these healthy habits stick. So when you get this right, I will tell you momentum really starts to build quickly. Step number 3, and I don't know if I actually said this, but I'm going to give you 5 steps. So we're step number 3. We're moving right along here. But we have to train our nervous system to tolerate discomfort on this journey to our healthiest self, our healthiest weight in 2026, because change requires capacity. Okay. Say this with me again. Change requires capacity, right? So step 3 is about our nervous system. And I think another one of the very overlooked parts of habit change, and the reason why a lot of people fail or, quote unquote fail, even when they know exactly what to do, is this, right? We often think inconsistency is like a character flaw or, just a lack of willpower, but it's really not. Usually it's a capacity issue. When your nervous system is dysregulated, when you're chronically stressed, when you're overwhelmed with, everything you have on your calendar, with your life responsibilities, if you're inflamed, like internally inflamed, or if you're just pure exhausted, right? Not getting enough sleep, your brain is wired to stay in survival mode. And survival mode does not care about your long-term goals, right? When we're in survival mode, like we're just trying to get to the end of the day, we're not thinking about our long-term goals. And it cares, our body cares about minimizing discomfort right now, right? And I do think this is tied back to going into autopilot. Like we do that just to like get through to the next thing. And that's why we got to turn off autopilot so we can be like, oh, this is what my nervous system is trying to tell me, right? And so um our body only cares about minimizing discomfort right now. So, what that means, practically speaking, is when you're stressed, you're going to crave sugar, right? Or when you're tired, you choose convenience foods that maybe aren't in line with your goals. Or when you're overwhelmed, you just abandon those new habits because you just don't have the bandwidth. Or if you're feeling anxious, maybe you eat faster and or you eat more food because you're just trying to get to the next thing. Or if you're overstimulated, you lose that ability to pause and reconnect with self and have that self-awareness. And I want you to know your biology is doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is protect you from discomfort. So the work here is building our ability to sit with discomfort without immediately reacting to it, right? And that requires some nervous system training. Okay, so what this could look like is, when we're feeling super stressed, we go and we do some walking, light walking, consistent walking when we're feeling stressed instead of reaching for a bag of chips, right? Or, we start to do breath work to pull our body out of that, like, I'm all worked up, fight or flight. My heart rate is going high because I know I'm late here and I'm getting road rage because this car in front of me is driving super slow and I'm about to like scream at them because I'm late. We do breath work, right? Maybe this looks like eating slower to activate. Gosh, guys, pregnancy and talking is so hard. I'm really excited. I mean, I don't know that it's going to get better as soon as I have this baby, but hopefully. Anyway, so maybe this looks like eating slower to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, right? We're chewing, we're sitting, we're resting, and we're digesting. Maybe it looks like practicing a pause before responding to a craving. It's like you're like, "Oh, I just really need chocolate right now." And you just pause and you're like, "But do I? Why? What am I feeling?" Again, it goes back to that reconnecting. And maybe it's choosing some small doses of discomfort on purpose, right? We've talked about this before. If you've been with us for the last 51 episodes, but that looks like fasting. It might look like cold exposure, whether that's a cold plunge or a cold shower. Maybe it looks like strength training, lifting those heavy weights, getting in the gym and pushing ourselves. Maybe it looks like having hard conversations and setting boundaries, right? Those are all small doses of discomfort on purpose that are going to build that muscle of our resilience. Okay. And allowing discomfortable, picking up more words, allowing uncomfortable emotions without numbing them with food, right? Like just being willing to be like, I don't like these feelings that I have right now, but I'm going to sit with them and I'm going to see what they're like, where are they coming from and try to sort them out, right? Over time, you guys, these practices are going to expand your internal bandwidth and you're going to go from being reactive to responsive. And, when you go from overwhelmed to grounded or reactive to responsive, things really change, right? And hopefully you're going to go through this process from inconsistent to steady to consistent, and you're going to feel like a whole new person because you have um gotten comfortable being uncomfortable, and it's not scary to you. You know, we're not like on autopilot trying to mask our discomfort. And, this is where change becomes possible because consistency is a nervous system skill, right? And when you build capacity, your habits finally have a place to land. And that is really important because I think a lot of times when we try to make change, we're like, okay, now we're going to work out every day, like 5 days a week, and we're going to do all this meal planning, and it's January 1st, let's go. We do that without making space in our life too, right? We just added on top of everything we're already doing. I was just having this conversation with my husband. Is every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else because there's only so much of us to go around. And so part of this, maybe this comes back to the boundaries thing. I don't know. Everyone's life is a little bit different, but we have to make space for these new habits, for the discomfort of change to have a place to sort itself out within our life if we truly want to change and if we want that change to stick. Moving on to step 4 is we have to build some metabolic momentum with simple, repeatable habits. Okay. So, this is the Lifestyle School for Weight Loss course formula. Obviously, we go way more into it in the course. And if you're curious about the Lifestyle School for Weight Loss course, you can head over to my website at www.hopepotcoaching.com. If you don't put the W's in, my website won't come up, sadly. But if you go over there, you can learn all about the course, Lifestyle School for Weight Loss. But this is kind of the formula we put together. So the step 4 is about building metabolic momentum, not through intensity, not through perfection, but through simple habits that we try to repeat consistently. Okay. Because, for most of us, we don't struggle because we don't know enough. We struggle because we're doing too much. It's too chaotic. There's no rhythm and there's no foundation. And our metabolism responds to rhythm. It responds to consistency, some level of predictability. And when our daily habits align with our biology, right, our body adapts really quickly and we can start seeing some really amazing progress. So, some of these steps include things like a predictable fasting routine that matches our season of life. There is benefit to switching up your fasting routine, but if you're getting started, just figure out a rhythm and routine that works for your life at that moment. So for a long time when I was just getting started, I would do my long fast on Monday. So every Monday I did a 24-hour fast. And then eventually every Monday I would do a 48-hour fast when I was getting started. Obviously I worked my way to that. And then the other days I would do like a 16-8 and I'd take Sunday off and I do, 3 square meals a day. And that was a rhythm that really worked for my life and my like my work schedule, my home life during that season. And I had some really great results, right? And so finding that routine with fasting that works for you and matches your season of life is huge. This could also look like doing 2 or 3 balanced meals a day that are protein forward, right? Don't overcomplicate it. It could look like walking daily to build insulin sensitivity, specifically walking after meals, right? Trying to make that part of just like your rhythm and routine. It looks like strength training 2 to 3 times a week to build muscle. You don't have to be in the gym 5 days a week for an hour plus. 2 to 3 times a week of strength training for 30 to 45 minutes, if you're really working hard, can give you some really beautiful results, especially if if you haven't been in the gym for a long time. Weekly grocery shopping and meal planning to reduce decision fatigue, right? You make a menu, you save it on your computer, you have a grocery list that goes with that menu for that week, and then you recycle those week after week. So eventually, maybe you have 4 or 5 weeks of meal plans that you and your family like. And all you have to do is on Saturday or whatever day works for you. You print that off, that meal plan and that grocery list off of your computer. You look and see what you have in your fridge and your cabinets. You circle the ingredients that you need to go get at the store. You pick those up and like you have a meal plan for the upcoming week, right? You get a consistent sleep schedule that reinforces a healthy circadian rhythm. Guys, you're getting to bed before 10, right? And then you're waking up at the same time every morning. This is going to be huge for your metabolic health and foundation. You're hydrating throughout the day. And then gradually reducing your toxic load through small, manageable steps. You don't have to overhaul your life when it comes to, being a more low toxic person overnight. But, gradually reducing these the toxic exposure of different products is going to accumulate into a really nice net benefit. So, doing that slowly and being mindful of that. Excuse me, I needed a little water because I've been talking a lot. So these habits, guys, I'm going to be honest, like they're not glamorous, right? They're not like super Instagrammable or extreme. They're really not, those like quote unquote quick fixes because quick fixes, let's be honest, like when have they ever worked for the long term? But these are the habits, rebuild your metabolism brick by brick, doing these different things I just talked about. Small things done repeatedly really compound. And compounding is where transformation happens, and not in intensity, but in repetition, right? And it's not about perfection. And when these habits become part of your lifestyle, your body stabilizes, your appetite regulates, your cravings decrease, and you feel grounded, you feel more capable, and you feel more aligned, right? Aligned with who you want to be now and 10 years from now. And this is how momentum is created. And once that momentum builds, the process becomes significantly easier. Hopefully, my goal is that your autopilot, right, includes all of these healthy habits that we're talking about. And so moving on to step 5, our final step, and you won't be surprised if you've been around long about what this next step is, but we have to upgrade our identity, right? The missing link to long-term transformation, I think for many people, is this identity piece. So now that we arrived at step 5, we are going to talk about upgrading our identity. This is the final step because it is really the anchor. It's a piece that kind of locks everything else into place. Our identity is the story that we tell ourselves about who we are, right? And that story really drives our behavior more than anything else. Because if you believe that, I'm always someone who falls off the wagon, or I'm not consistent, I'm emotional with food, or, I'm someone who can't lose weight, I'm all or nothing, I have bad discipline, whatever, then your habits are going to continually snap back to match those beliefs. And, our biology, our physical body follows our behaviors, right? And our behaviors follow our identity, and our identity follows the stories that we tell ourselves over and over and over every day in our head, and maybe even sometimes out loud. So this step requires you to ask, who am I becoming? What beliefs no longer align with the person that I'm trying to be? It's a really big one. What patterns am I ready to release? Again, can't do that if you're on autopilot and you haven't done that first step of self-awareness. But what patterns am I ready to release? Which relationships or expectations need boundaries? This is a big one. What choices would be the healthiest, what choices would the healthiest version of me make today? Asking that question, or even in the moment, when you're faced with a choice. How does that person, that healthy version of myself, act? How does that person think? How do they fuel their body? And how does this person that I'm trying to become move through discomfort, right? These are these questions that we have to ask and really answer these questions so that we can start to operate as that person. And because when your identity shifts, your habits shift naturally. And that's the whole, like, let's work with ourselves instead of against ourselves. Let's take willpower out of it, right? And when you're no longer forcing yourself to act like a healthy person, you are a healthy person, right? We don't want to be someone who's forcing themselves to act like a healthy person. We want to become that person. And this is really where transformation solidifies in this final piece. So, in closing, as we wrap up, let's bring the framework back together. So, we have to have awareness, right? We need to stabilize our blood sugar. We need to address our nervous system. We got to get the daily habits in place, and then we have to lock it in with our identity. It's not a quick fix. It's not a shortcut. This is not like a January only mindset. Really, truly, what this is, guys, is it's a path, one that honors your biology, your physiology, your psychology, your nervous system, and your real life, the one that you wake up into every day. And if you do these steps in this order, your body is going to respond. Your mind is going to sharpen. Your cravings are going to calm down. Thank God, right? Your energy will increase. Your confidence will grow. And the healthiest version of you will no longer feel like a dream. It will feel like a reality that you're actually stepping into. And I want to encourage you just to choose one step to lean into this week, just one, because one step taken consistently will do more for your health than 20 steps you abandon after a few days or a few weeks. And, if you want deeper support, if you want coaching, if you want community, step-by-step guidance, a structure that helps you integrate this work into your actual daily life, that's exactly what we do in the Lifestyle School for Weight Loss course. And if you want one-on-one support, there's always the option of adding on to the course my 8 weeks personalized coaching program, where we meet for 10 sessions. You can extend it if you would like, but we do like initial consult where we sit down. I get to really know your unique story. Once you have labs done, we can go over those specific labs. We can really dial things in and tailor them for what you need. And then you have 8 check-ins. So it's about 2 months, roughly 2.5 months of working together. We're checking in weekly, we're making a plan weekly and moving you through this together. That is a way that you can have deeper support. And so I want you to know that this could be your year. You get to choose, right? This could be your moment. But I want you to know too, if you're like, oh, this just sounds like a lot, I want you to know that you're not behind. You're not broken and you're not too late, right? You're right on time. And so I just want to encourage you, let's make 2026 the year that we finally feel like ourselves again and kind of come back to who we were always meant to be, right? In our best health, at a healthy weight, in a really good mindset and focus. So with that, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Again, I hope you had a great holidays. Happy New Year. If you haven't already, if you could subscribe to the podcast, that would be so helpful to me. Leave a review, leave a comment, share it with a friend. That's the best way for the word of this podcast to get out. And with that, guys, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week on the Lifestyle School podcast.